It is, Chris. It is the evening of May 30th, a Thursday, a historic day, which means not one, but two videos from me. So you may have heard, unless you were vacationing off of planet Earth, that Donald Trump was convicted on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in relation to his attempt to cover up payments made to a porn star who alleges he had an affair with her before the 2016 election. Wow, that's a mouthful. Okay, the obvious question now is, what does this all mean, right? We know the what. Now we got to figure out the so what and the now what, right? Why does this matter and where are we going? That's where I come in. So I do not think this is a game changer in this race. And the reason for that is because I don't think there is a game changer in this race. I think people are very much lined up on their two partisan sides. And for the most part, which is probably 94, 95% of the public, they've got their opinions. This is just going to play into that. For Democrats who are never going to vote for Donald Trump, this is further evidence that he is someone who is a rule breaker, a law breaker, and someone who shouldn't be president. For Republicans who are never not going to vote for Donald Trump, this is more evidence of the deep state and election interference and a rigged system trying to get a guy because he represents them. So what really matters, I guess, is what the 3 or 4 or 5% of people who still aren't decided about this race think. And honestly, too soon to know that. Here's what I will say, though. Just because this isn't going to create seismic change in the race does not mean it doesn't matter, or at least potentially doesn't matter. And I'm going to explain why. So there are about 6 swing states, right? Let's see if I can name them. Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Really, there's 6. Those states, by and large, were extremely close in 2016 and 2020, and obviously we expect them to be very close in 2024 as well. Let me just take Wisconsin as an example. In 2016, Donald Trump won Wisconsin by 22,000 votes out of about 3 million cast. In 2020, Joe Biden won Wisconsin by 20,000 votes out of 3.3 or 3.4 million cast, right? So a tiny number, 20,000 votes going the other way. And, you know, we may have Hillary Clinton as president of the United States in 2016 or Donald Trump getting reelected in 2020, right? So my point here is that you don't need a massive swing in votes or in how people are thinking about the presidential election for it to matter. Because if this impacts 1 or 2% of the electorate in Wisconsin and how they see Trump, like maybe they decide, you know what, he's been convicted by a jury of his peers. Like, I just don't feel comfortable with it. If it changes 1 or 2% of the vote, that could be enough to swing the vote to Biden. And so I think that's really important to remember. Margins are tiny and going to remain almost certainly tiny in this November election in these swing states. So just because it's not a sea change, just because a seismic shift is not going to happen, and a seismic shift is not going to happen, people, there's not going to be a national poll that comes out in a week that shows it Biden 60, Trump 40. Not possible. We're too polarized. People are too stuck in their ways. They are not changing their opinions by and large. But remember, it's about that small group, 25, 30, 40, 50,000 voters in a Wisconsin or a Michigan or an Arizona or a Pennsylvania. Does it impact them? I honestly don't know the answer to that yet. And I know anyone who claims they do know the answer to that, you should not listen to because they don't. Because we just don't yet. It just happened. That said, you would rather not be a convicted felon running for president than be a convicted felon running for president when it comes to convincing the small number of people who are still undecided that they should be for you, right? That's my basic take. Does it move enough votes for it to matter in these swing states? TBD. We'll find out. But a big and historic day, right? Take a step back from the politics and let's just talk about history for a minute and then I'll end. First former U.S. president to ever be convicted of a felony, right? Fact. That is a first that Donald Trump does not want. He likes to think of himself as a great man of history. That is not a first he wants, right? That is a fact. What isn't a fact, what we don't know yet, is what that means in terms of the electorate. Does it change minds? And again, doesn't have to change a ton of minds. Does it even change that small number of minds? Or is it like everything else we've seen in this race? nothing changes anything. The race is static. It's going to stay static. I don't know. Give it 2 weeks, give it a month, and we'll see where the polling is. We'll come back and talk about it. All right. Take care of yourselves. Check out my Substack if you have not, chrissolicitor.substack.com. I've got a big takeout on the Trump verdict, and I will see you here on Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, where I will take questions in a live stream. All right, be well.